Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. But we are joined by very special guests for the first time ever, Renee Washington, three-time soccer All-American, anchor and reporter for the Washington football team and ESPN. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Renee. How are you doing?
I'm getting applause. I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be here. And thank you guys. That was a great introduction.
Of course, ma'am. And the first thing we have to talk about is this game last night and the fact yesterday. They got beaten down 43-21. It was not a great showing by any stretch for the Washington football team up in Buffalo. My first question to you is, what went wrong?
You know, I think the hardest thing for all Washington football fans to understand is this is a really good Buffalo team. Like, if this is a game they lose to, I'll say like Jacksonville or the Jets, or like there's certain teams, if you see them play the way they did against them, you should be concerned. And look, I'm not going to say that I was definitely angry looking at the game at times and just disappointed. You know, this was a test for them to see how are they going to match up against one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best offense in the league, one of the best receivers in Stephon Diggs. And I think it just showed that, you know, as a team, there's still a lot more that has to be done. You know, it's still a young group. They're still working through things. It's still early in the season. Forget, let's look at that. It's only week 3. Yeah. So I don't want to hit the panic button quite yet. Because it's not, like I said, this is a team, at least in my opinion, I had them projected as being a team that makes a far run in the AFC. I had them giving the AFC championship a serious run for its money. So you lose to a team that, when we look forward into January of this year, of this season, I should say, we expect they're going to probably still be playing. So I think it just shows what they need to work on. It's a great early test. And yes, we would have loved to see a closer game and a better result. But overall, you got beat by a better team on that day. That's what it was.
No, 100% agree. It was definitely the better team. They have a lot to work on. There was a lot more negatives than positive. Or what were some of the positives that you saw from that game coming out of it?
Yeah, definitely. I was even saying there's some things you've got to be encouraged about. Like, look at the way the team fought back.
Right.
You know, I honestly was thinking, you know, the Bills come right out, they score quick, then there's 2 turnovers that lead directly to a touchdown. You're down 21-0. You're thinking, this is it, game over. Yeah. So to see the team even storm back and Antonio Gibson, to see Terry McLaurin play so well, to see Taylor, who had a lot of turnovers in that game, still have some resilience to be able to respond back after that. You know, I think my question is now, can the team have that same response without the mistakes? You know, you see the turnovers, and then a couple plays later, we see even Dustin Hopkins' punt that he was able to recover. Like, there's some really great plays we saw happen throughout the game, but can that happen before we dig ourselves into a hole? Can we get that happening at 0-0 or when it's closer? So I think the encouraging thing I saw was the resilience, the response. You know, for any team, they could pack it in once you're down like that and just kind of give up and the rest of the game be ugly. But they still fought back. They still somewhat made a game of it. And there were still some encouraging takeaways, I think, that you have to looking away from the result, just looking at the game as a whole that you can hopefully build off of. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go any further, I just want to say the Burgundy Zone is part of Listen Frederick, a curated network of local podcasts produced and in focus on the Frederick area. Along with highlighting local talent, Listen Frederick hopes to bring local stories, voices, and personalities together to create a podcast community. Listen Frederick is part of the Manning Media family, home of Key 103 and 106.9 The Eagle. You can check out more about us and other shows on the network at www.listenfrederick.com. Now, my next question for you, Renee. This defense was, again, for the third straight game in a row, horrendous on third down, 9 for 15. Third straight game in a row where the offense on the opening drives goes down for a touchdown. In my opinion, that tells me that what we're doing is vanilla. It can be anticipated. The offenses know what we are doing, and it's very easy for them to call up plays to be able to diagnose that. What can Washington do to kind of stifle that third down?
Yeah. Let me just go on by saying, first of all, as a reporter with the team, I am not involved in any of these discussions. So please, nobody attack me for any of these things.
If anyone attacks you, Renee, you let me know.
I go to practices. I talk, I host some shows, but I am not in the discussions for these things. But I will say, I think, a big part of the success of the team's defense has been pass rush game. And unfortunately, as you're mentioning, it's becoming a lot easier to really work around that. We saw the Chargers in week 1, what Justin Herbert did, just to move the ball so quickly, and the way their offense spread our defense out, that we weren't even able to put any pressure on him. Of course, the Giants game was a little bit different, but I look mostly at the Chargers and Bills games because those are two tough opponents, top quarterbacks, top teams. No knock on the Giants, but hey, they just lost to the Falcons. So I just weigh it a little more heavily against the Bills and the Chargers in general. I think that the versatility has to be there just to adjust the way that we're lining up our defense, because it does seem as though other teams are able to just kind of read it too well.
Right.
And that has been one of the biggest success points of this team is the defense. Coming in, we're all talking about how it's a top defense in the league. So to see the numbers that are getting put up against us, it's definitely discouraging. But I'm interested to see how they go back to the drawing board. What's Coach Jack Del Rio going to do? How are they going to adjust the defense? Because it's evident it's time to make some changes. I think there's a lot of talent there. Don't get me wrong. I still do think there's a lot of youth as well, but I also think the cohesion as a whole on the defense has to just be better. Yeah. I just think that we're seeing some early season jitters, and something that I'm not going to take credit for this, but somebody else said it, but it really hit home what I've been trying to stress is like, I think we may have at times gotten carried away when we looked at the team winning the NFC East last year, the team doing so well in the wild card game, to put them on this pedestal that they really haven't earned quite yet. To have one great game against Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, yes, that was exciting. Don't get me wrong, but it's a long season. So I think we're now seeing that maybe we put them up somewhere defensively and just as a team where they really weren't yet. They still have to work through some take their lumps, work through some things, but I think the defense has to really adjust just the way that they're lining up to be a little less predictable, because it is not the way that we expect this defense to come out.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you mentioned Tampa Bay last year. Taylor Heineke was the quarterback for that game. What have kind of been your impressions of him so far, 3 games into the season? And what was kind of your impressions of him in that Buffalo game, even though you kind of touched on it before?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the real Taylor. I think that this is, again, when you have one major game against Tampa, you look at his career as a whole, even before the wild card game, he hasn't consistently played minutes in the league. So I think what we're seeing is, and we can all agree to this, as an athlete in general, it's one thing if you have to just step right in 5-10 minutes here and there, but it's another thing when it's game in and game out. Yeah. And so I think what we're now seeing is he's got to work through that. And he may not have the ceiling that a lot of people expected because of us putting him again on that pedestal from the Tampa Bay game. But I think he's a really solid quarterback. I think his decision-making comes from the fact that when you are always having to prove yourself, sometimes you do find yourself overthinking, whereas if you're QB1, Ryan's out for, the foreseeable future, we're leading on you, we're going to trust you. Just make the consistent play, make the simple play. And I think sometimes we are seeing Taylor is kind of like overthinking of like, I have to make this big play and this big pass. And some of his throws are a little forced at times, whereas just let the game come to you. Don't overthink it. Some of his throws were, you can see where the window's there, but he's not getting it off quick enough. So I think we're just seeing him work through, like, this is his preseason, essentially. Unfortunately, it's the regular season, but we're seeing him work through just kind of the hurdles of, as QB1, when you're running the offense play after play, game after game, just be consistent. We don't need the ups and downs. We don't need big play Taylor. We just need simple plays and consistent plays, and just move the chains so we can just keep the offense on the field a little bit longer than what we're seeing right now. So I'm hoping that next week against Atlanta will be a different test. Obviously, them coming off of their first win over the Giants. And I was even saying they barely even targeted Kyle Pitts, who obviously coming in this year had a high regard. I watched him play. I actually covered him back in high school. So I've known him for many years now. He's a very, very tremendous player and talented player. So I think he's going to have a big game, unfortunately, next week. So I'm interested to see, when you look at the schedule ahead, it doesn't get any easier. You know, that Atlanta game is supposed to be the easy game, but I have a feeling they're not going to be the same Atlanta team we've seen to start off the season. So it's only going to get harder. So for Taylor, for Terry, for AG, for Chase, Montez, all these players, it's about, can you consistently perform week in and week out? We don't need special plays every game. We just need consistent plays. Do your job to the best of your ability, and that's it. I think part of it is just overthinking, you know, of like, I got to make this big highlight play that's going to make it on Sports Center. No. Just make the simple play. Just move the chains.
Killed it, Renee. Killed it. That was fantastic. And you brought up the guy I was going to bring up, and that is Antonio Gibson. If there weren't many bright spots at all during that game. Antonio Gibson was most likely the brightest one besides Dustin Hopkins, my personal opinion. He had 12 carries, 31 yards for a 2.6 average on the ground. But he had one catch for 73 yards and a touchdown. How great was that screen pass? That was incredible, that kind of momentum swing. But then also, how do you think that he could bounce back against Atlanta? Do you think he should be utilized more?
Yeah, I think that is definitely one of those bright spots you take away. That play in general was just kind of the composure. It was, the timing of it, everything was perfect. But it's now, can we, instead of seeing those in glimpses, can we see that throughout the entire game? So right. I liked what we've seen from Antonio Gibson. I think that game was probably what he needed. And look, we can look at the week before, someone like J.D. McKissick and someone like even Cam Sims, who they're trying to find more. I think that's a big issue that we kind of take out of the equation, is the fact that the offense is still trying to, not only is Taylor trying to figure things out, everyone around him is trying to figure things out too. You know, we saw week 1, Terry only had 4 targets. Then he had 14 targets week 2 against the Giants. Like, everybody is still younger in that sense of trying to figure out, how do we make this work? If we have Jarrett Patterson, AG, J.D. McKissick, how are we going to make this work? If we have Cam Sims, Terry, who are we targeting? How are we getting all these players touches on the ball? So some of the drops they had, some of the incomplete passes, some of the turnovers, I would hope that we're going to see these change. And I would hope that we're going to also see just more composure. To me, it's kind of like they're antsy. There's some raw emotions there of like, I got to take off and run. Like, some of the plays I think back to was as simple as just catch the ball first. Before we start taking off, there was a play that Kendall Fuller had on defense. He almost cleanly caught it off of the ball bounced up. He almost cleanly caught it. I'm like, just catch it first. You're ready to take off. Just secure the ball. Yep. Logan Thompson had one. Just secure the ball. You break a tackle, awesome play, and then you drop the ball. So I think it's almost just some of that jitters, and AG was definitely a bright spot in seeing that 73-yard reception. The run was beautiful. The touchdown he had, just the timing up. He left like 12 feet. Yeah. By the way, which was incredible.
He jumped from like the 5-yard line, right?
Yeah, it was insane. But can we get more of that now? Can we see that where different guys are consistently showing what they should be doing? So I'm hoping we're going to see not only just him, but between the Giants game and the loss to the Bills, seeing some more players like him. I keep mentioning J.D. McKissick and Terry McLaurin. Can we target them more? Can we make the simple plays and stop turning the ball over? That's it.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And another piece of this offense that was a big offseason addition was Curtis Samuel. I don't know if you were at practice today or not, but if you were, can you kind of give us an update on how he looked at practice today?
I cannot give an update on that, actually. In all seriousness, I was not there, first of all, so that I can tell you. But even if I was, I'm not fully able to speak on that. But I'm just hoping that we get to see a healthy Curtis Samuel. I know that, as coach has been saying in interviews, they're just trying to give him time to heal, not rush him back, and just not have that pressure of like, we expect you back by X week. So I'm just disappointed that, we haven't had a chance to see him at 100%. I will say, looking back on, I believe it was 2 weeks ago when he had to leave practice early. Yep. He was running and stepped out of the drill and was, that's when they reported he was going to be out. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Injuries, that's the hardest part of this all. We don't know, because certain injuries, and look, we just saw a bunch of injuries this past weekend in general. It happens. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'm glad they're giving him time to kind of focus on that instead of rushing back, because it is such a long season. As much as we'd love to have had him week 2, week 3, week 4. I don't know if we're going to have him week 4. I'm not saying here nor there. But long run, we'd rather have him be 100%.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think they're off on Mondays, and they come back to practice on Tuesdays, and I think tomorrow was the day that Rivera said in his presser that they were going to see if he was good to go or not. They're really excited to see it. So tomorrow's a big day for him. Now, Renee, to finish up this interview, I have a 2-part question for you. I'll ask the first, obviously, and then I'll ask the second once you answer the first one. But my first one's going to be, what did the Washington football team learn from this loss? The worst thing you can do about a loss is not learn from it. So what did Washington football team learn from this loss to the Bills?
First of all, I just realized it's Monday as you were saying that, because for some reason I was thinking it's Tuesday. So that's what I learned. Today is Monday. I'm like, Monday. Okay. So I learned what day of the week it is. No. Weird. But I will say, I think the team just learned kind of where they match up. This is, as painful as it's going to be, great film and what we call chalk talk, even though nobody uses chalkboards anymore. Chalk talk material of like, here's what we need to work on. When you play against the best, and when you're talking about being a team that's, forget the NFC East, that's going to be making playoff runs, it's going to be competing for, NFC championships and Super Bowls in the future. If we get there, you got to be able to beat the best. And what better test than to come up against one of the best offenses in the league, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I think one of the biggest lessons is that it's like a humbling, I hate to say it, but it's a humbling game of like, we're not there yet. We've made a lot of growth, a lot of progress, but we're not there yet. And there's a lot that we have to continue to work on. And I like what Chase was even saying after the game of like, no more goofing around. Like, we got to get to business. Yep. And I'm hoping they're bringing that right mentality. And I've been at practices and everything seems like the team has been working hard, but there's a difference. Let's take it up a notch even more and really push each other and really get into each other, because we're not where we want to be. And we don't want to settle just because we won the NFC East, which was garbage last year. We want more than that. So I think this was kind of that like humbling, painful check that the team and honestly some fans needed to remind us all that Washington football is great, but Washington football still has some growing to do to get there. Yeah, and that being said, you just said it so perfectly. I wanted my last question to you is, are you optimistic that they can turn it around? Because I know I am. Oh, yeah. Look, I played many years now. It was the other football and soccer, but I've been around sports long enough as a player, as a coach, as a reporter to know I am never counting a team out. And on the other side, I'm never going to give a team and put them on a pedestal early in the season. Whether I don't care if it is the Rams, who look incredible right now, or a team. Well, I'm not going to put the Jets. I may count on a little bit. I keep beating them up. There's certain teams I may count out a little bit. Ooh, but in general, it's week 3. We're going into week 4. There's so much that could happen. I mean, you look at last year, and of course, injuries always happen. You look at last year, who would have expected some of what we saw? I know a lot of people thought when Todd Brady went to Tampa Bay that they were going to win it all. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought I had Kansas City winning it all. I had expectations for things to go differently in general. So I'm not ever going to write a team off. I think that this group, we do see a lot of talent. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of guys still trying to figure out their role and identity. Yeah. And that's something that we assume just because you are now the first option and you're Terry McLaurin or you're Antonio Gibson, that suddenly it's just going to click. The offense always takes longer to figure things out because it's all about being on the same page. When you can't hear anything, when you're in Buffalo and everything's loud, can you look at each other and know exactly what the other person's thinking? No, we're not there yet. So I think for me, it's just understanding to take it one game at a time, one day at a time, and the team will get there. But I'm definitely optimistic. I mean, even just being around the team, that's one of the most exciting things for me in starting this role with the team. It's a great time to be a part of Washington football. The team is, making a lot of changes on and off the field. And I think this season is still going to be a good one. Yes, ma'am. That was perfect, Renee. My goodness, were you impressive. And I could see why you are a soccer All-American, not only on the field, but your mind is incredible. That was great stuff, Renee. Before we get out of here, if you want to plug your stuff, and also I know that you're a host of the Players Club with Fred Smoot on there for the Washington football team. So if you can, plug your Twitter handle, your social media stuff, and also when are the videos in your show going to be released? Yeah, so it's a new show. It's actually really exciting. The Players Club is kind of like an behind-the-scenes look. It's D'Angelo Hall, Fred Smoot, We have Santana Moss has been on there, myself, and then it's always a current player that's usually on there each week. And we are just having conversations, whether it's conversations around what the team's got going on that week or looking back, looking ahead, but also even just like stories and things that we don't often, like those behind the scenes stories of getting to know players and getting to know what's going on in the locker room and who's the funniest and who's this and who's that, like kind of getting into know a little bit more about the team. So that actually drops every Saturday morning. A new episode comes on, and that's on NBC, and then also across like YouTube and the Washington football team website. It's also a podcast, so you can literally listen to it basically anywhere you want. But the cool thing about it is the full episode always airs as a podcast, but we have to cut it for TV purposes. So you might get the 28 minutes version on YouTube and on TV, but the full like hour long episode is airing on podcast platforms. So if you follow me, it's Renee P. Washington on everything. Super simple to follow. My website, my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, not on TikTok, but wherever you want to follow, I will follow back, and I'm always pushing the show and promoting it. And so there's that, and then there's some other new content coming out soon. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Thank you so much, Renee. That was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. I know you're very, very busy with all the different jobs that you have, and you were quite impressive. Thank you so much, Renee. I hope you have a great night. I'm going to try to get you back on soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it, Kyle and Mike. This has been fun, and I definitely would love to do this again sometime in the future. So
yes,
thank you, guys.
And I look forward to seeing your work this season. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with Renee. That was fantastic. To say impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
And definitely great to get another like outside perspective of someone that inside the team that's around the team every day. Has obviously, like you said, with Fred Smoot, D Hall, guys like that. So definitely can't wait to check out the newest episodes coming out.
Yes, and look, we got to pick the brain of Renee Washington from the Washington football team. So let's transition over to our guy Sal. My man, the beat and sideline reporter for the Buffalo Bills. Let's kind of get their look onto this game. It was a beatdown for sure. But Sal, thank you so much for joining us tonight, sir. How are you doing?
Pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, sir. And the first thing I have to ask you is, like, what is the feeling around Buffalo country up there with this game? I know I'm not going to say it's like embarrassing for the Washington football team, but was it kind of an expectation for you guys, or is it kind of like you guys were happy to get away with that?
No, I wouldn't say like, oh my gosh, they got away with it. I mean, The Bills were over touchdown favorites, right? But I would say the first 2 weeks had Bills fans a little on edge. The offense hadn't been performing necessarily the way we were accustomed to throughout last year. I mean, this is an offense last year that averaged 31 points a game. Josh Allen was runner-up to league MVP, and things were a little bit off. So I think it was more like, okay, they should take care of this team. But from what we saw for the first 2 weeks, kind of let's see how that goes. I think the way the game went was more of a surprise to Bills fans that they really kind of dominated from the get-go.
Yeah, I want to say I heard you on the Junkies last week, and you kind of predicted a blowout, so great job on that prediction. But that being said, you mentioned kind of the first 2 weeks of the season, and this was kind of a get-right. Everyone thought this was going to be a get-right game for the Buffalo Bills. With that being said, do you think that Josh Allen's going to keep up the level of play that he had on Sunday?
Well, look, there was something different. First of all, I did predict a bit of a blowout. I picked them to kind of cover the spread, but not this much, right? I didn't think they'd kind of double them up like that and score in the 40s. That Washington defense is no joke, and we all knew that they had that front four coming in, and the Bills would have their hands full. But I give a lot of credit to Brian Dable and the game plan that he came up with offensively. Josh got rid of the ball pretty quickly. He had, easy reads, and what I said on that show too was if you're going to blitz or go man to man, the Bills will eat them up. And really, I mean, there wasn't a lot of that, but there was just a lot of receivers that were tough to handle, I think, for Washington. And I think it goes to what, you're asking me here about Josh. I think Josh, after this game, is kind of back to having the confidence. And I don't know what it is, guys, but the first 2 weeks, he seemed like he was kind of babying the ball a little bit. He was maybe trying to be perfect. Look, he just signed $258 million contract. He was the second in the league to MVP voting. I think there's a lot of pressure that came along to this season. And I think Josh was putting a lot of pressure on himself. After this week's game, the way that the ball was coming out with a lot of velocity, he was firing darts all over the field. You saw the athleticism, obviously. So yeah, I think now we can start to expect that Josh Allen will start playing like we saw last year in 2020 when he was the runner-up to league MVP.
Yeah, I knew how that game was going to go after that first touchdown pass. I mean, that was absolutely incredible. The catch was even better than the throw, to be perfectly honest with you. But, Sal, because you cover this team, you see them all the time, you know what they want to do. Every team has things that they want to do to the other, and they have things that they don't want to have happen. What were the Bills able to do to Washington, and how were they able to keep Washington from doing what they didn't want them to do?
Well, I think it really started with up front and not allowing that great front four that Washington has of getting loose. The first game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, and Melvin Ingram really caused problems for the Bills. And that was a big concern in Buffalo after the game, a big talking point, our station. Hey, what's going on? And I think since then, they played Miami week 2, not quite the front, but they did a really good job. And I think they kind of settled into understanding, how to approach those situations against a group like that. But one of the things the Bills did over the last 2 weeks, and they did more of it on Sunday, interestingly, they used the tight end a little bit more as a blocker. Even though they like to spread the field, they helped out. They kept the running back on the field to help out in pass protection situations. The Bills in week 1 against Pittsburgh went empty a lot. They didn't do that as much these past 2 weeks. I also give Darrell Williams, right tackle, a lot of credit. He was one-on-one with Chase Young quite a bit. And I know that, people in Washington are wondering, when is Chase going to kind of start playing like the rookie of the year last year?
Sore subject.
Right. Of course, but I think the Bills had a good plan for him, and I did. And I think what they were able to do was simply neutralize the front four, get the ball out of Josh's hands quickly, and then Josh did the rest. I thought he just saw the field really well and threw the ball well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because after week 2 and week 1, with Daniel Jones running the ball so much like he did against Washington, kind of expected that Josh Allen would go to his strength and really go heavy on running the football. Can you kind of talk about, did they know that Washington was going to have an emphasis on running it with the quarterback, and they kind of said, okay, well, then we're going to go to the second outlet and just bleed you all day long while you thinking that's the case?
It's funny. I thought the same thing. I looked back, and it wasn't just Daniel Jones. Guys go back, obviously you cover this team, but Russell Wilson ran against them. Jalen Hurts ran against them going back to last year, right? And I thought this was an area where with Josh Allen and his athleticism, boy, there could be some designed runs. The Bills tried some, they tried one down at the red zone. They liked that quarterback draw.
That was good. Yeah.
But I thought what they were going to do going into the game, and I think their plan was this actually, to kind of go to the teeth of the Washington defense and kind of neutralize the pass rush. Don't let those edge rushers get off a little bit. But oh my gosh, Allen and Payne are tough to deal with. Payne was actually doing really well against Cody Ford. He was really eating them up early on. But I think at the end of the day, look, guys, Josh Allen's special. He is. And Brian Daboll and the Bills know what Josh Allen is. They don't want him running the ball a lot. Yes, he can do it. He's great at it. And he puts up numbers running the ball that most quarterbacks can't. But he's a passer and a great quarterback and a great thrower. He threw 37 touchdowns last year. And he threw, 40. He was on fire. 74% on 43 attempts is a great number. So I think that even though that looked like it could have been the game plan, this was about letting Josh Allen be Josh Allen as a passer.
Yeah, and going into that game, Buffalo I think they were pretty much top 10 in a lot of defensive categories, just playing really well through the first couple of weeks. Do you expect that consistency of the defense to keep up? And if so, how far do you see the Buffalo Bills going with that high-powered offense and that defense?
Yeah, I do, and a couple of reasons why. I don't think people realize this defense has been together 4 years now, 3 years or 4 years for most.
And a great D coordinator.
And Leslie Frazier, he is really dialed in as a play caller right now. He knows exactly what his team's strengths and weaknesses are. You guys follow football long enough, and especially there and especially here, we went through and you've gone through a lot of coaching changes, right? Yep. You see a lot of different systems that go in and out. And when that happens, you have different guys that don't fit systems. You're trying to figure it out. That's not the issue here in Buffalo. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. They're really kind of sprinkling in guys here and there, like rookies like Rousseau or Epinesa, in the second year. But really, it's a majority of these guys. They've been together. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, 5th year in this system, right? Matt Milano, 5th year in this system. You think about guys who were even in Carolina with Sean McDermott, like Star Lotulelei, Mario Addison, right? They come over and they know this system. So that's number one. Number two, they're just really good football players. I mean, those guys I mentioned, they're all very good. They have one All-Pro on the team. That is Tre'Davious White. The rest of the guys maybe have an argument for it, but it's more about them just always being a team defense and playing really consistently. Now, as far as the rest of the year, look, this schedule sets up for the Bills defense to be near at the top all year. They have the Houston Texans next week. All right. Think about the AFC East. The offenses in the East are just not good. The Jets twice,
Miami.
the Patriots twice, and Miami once more, right? Yeah. I mean, I think this defense now in 2 weeks, the Bills will play Kansas City and then they'll play Tennessee and back to back. those are going to be challenges. But guys, I mean, for the rest of the year, this schedule really sets up for this Bills defense to be pretty dominant.
Yeah, and they should be based on how they played yesterday. That continues the trend. Now, Sal, like you kind of briefly touched on it, on how, Buffalo used to be that kind of in the same realm as the Browns, as us, is kind of like trying to find the stability as an organization, you could say. So I last week said, the Bills I would consider our older brother. It's like what we are trying to grow into as a team. So I'm going to try to use you right here because a lot of the fan base today is going crazy. They want to blow this thing up. They think Chase Young is a buzz. They think Jack Del Rio needs to be fired. Scott Turner needs to be fired. Seeing where you come from, seeing how the Bills have grown into this thing, do you have advice for Washington fans, like to be able just to say, look, man, they're on the right track, or do you see a problem here?
No, I like Washington coming into the year. I think Ron Rivera is the right guy to right the ship. I really do. I think that he brings consistency and professionalism that maybe hasn't been there for a while, right? From the outside looking in. I think obviously when you have Dan Snyder as an owner, you always wonder how much meddling there's going to be, things like that, right? Look, here's what happened in Buffalo. And first of all, guys, I'm 48 years old. I go back to the Super Bowl years when I was a kid, right? All right. I watched, and then I was here through the drought, 17 years of no playoffs. This is my 8th year as the sideline reporter, but yet I'm on my basically in 10 years covering the team professionally. I'm on my 4th head coach. I've seen a lot of changes here, just like you have. And one thing I'll say is consistency and stability is what you need and what you strive for. Now, you can't just have that to have that. I get it, but you can't just blow things up right away. Right. You got to have a plan and a vision, and you got to have people and brought in. And I think one thing the Bills have done better than what I've ever seen here is it's not really about the players. I mean, of course you want good players. It's the people they bring in. It's the people in the organization. It's having good people, having the right culture, the right attitude, that every day the message stays consistent. You know exactly what your expectations are all the time. Now, I will say it helps when you find a franchise quarterback. And I think that's where Washington is, right? If all of a sudden, next draft, whatever it is, if Washington gets their Josh Allen or their Patrick Mahomes, that will cover up a lot of holes that you see with Washington right now. So my advice to any Washington football fan is you have to have a little bit of patience. You guys did win the division last year. You went to the playoffs. I know it wasn't a great record, but at least that kind of carries you over a little bit for a couple of years. Give Ron Rivera time. Hope Dan Snyder doesn't insert himself. You have to have everybody on the same page. Ownership, management, coaching staff, sports science staff, medical staff, equipment staff. Everybody's got to be on the same page. We have that here in Buffalo now for the first time in 2 decades.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And hopefully with, like you said, everyone from Carolina kind of going to Buffalo, we got some Carolina people down here. Hopefully that kind of culture change will take effect down here. But speaking of the offense, going back to Brian Dable, who I think is going to be a head coach next year if he gets opportunity. The offense has kind of been known to sling the ball over the field with Josh Allen, high-powered offense, a lot of receivers. But this running game with Singletary and Moss is kind of starting to pick up, getting a little bit of balance in it. Do you see them kind of sticking with the balance, or do you see them going back to the 30, 40, 50 throws a game with Josh Allen?
Well, he threw the ball 51 times in week 1. This is most ever. They don't want to do that, but 35, 40 throws a game, you're going to get the Bills throwing pretty much 65% of the time. That's who they are. They're going to spread the field. And why wouldn't you when you have Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, Emmanuel Sanders, the list goes on and on. They just have a great number of receivers, right? At the same time, the philosophy, and this is one way I really like Brandon Beane and how he's built this team. His philosophy is I'm not spending high picks on running backs. I'm not spending big money on running backs. They have 2 third-rounders in Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. They're both on rookie contracts, and they use them, and that's what they do. And they're not beholden to these big contracts to running backs because that's why you paid Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to be the guy to carry the team. So I think going forward, to me, Devin Singletary is still the number 1 running back, so to speak. But look, Zach Moss had a better game yesterday, and he showed that he can be the hot hand. And Brian Dable has always said, I'll go with the hot hand. And yesterday it was Zach Moss. After the first 2 weeks, it was Devin Singletary. Yeah. But if you're a fantasy player, for example, I would say Singletary is still the guy on the Bills to have, but he's probably not going to be a touchdown guy because Moss and Allen get those touchdowns. And I wouldn't rely on a Bills running back because they're going to throw the ball so much.
Yeah. And Sal, based on your football knowledge and being able to watch this game and being able to see how good these teams are, for the Washington football team, I'm leaning on you here, Sal. Make me feel better. Yeah. Do you think that they are a bottom 5 team, or is this a team that is just disorganized, not playing together, not playing to their capability?
I don't think they're playing up to their standard right now. Obviously, when you give up, I know the Bills have a really high powered offense, but when you give up 43 points, that shouldn't happen. I don't know what's going on with the pass rush. I don't know what's going on with Chase Young. I would tell you, I think they might need a little work at linebacker. I love Jamin Davis, but it seems like maybe the Bills took advantage of them across the middle, some coverage areas, things like that. I think the secondary has to be looked at a little bit. It's all about the quarterback there, right? I went all week, guys, telling everybody I love Taylor Heineke's game. He could play for me anytime. I love his moxie. I love his athletic ability, his mobility, things like that. But he's Taylor Heineke, and you can't get through 17 games with him. We feel the same thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick. We love Ryan Fitzpatrick here. I mean, he always has said, and he still will, that Buffalo's his favorite city to play in. We all wanted to see him play, but it's the same thing. There's a reason why Ryan Fitzpatrick's been in the league almost 2 decades and he's never played in a playoff game, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, he's not a true, legit, franchise starting quarterback. He's a guy that can get you through. I think that has to obviously improve a little bit the quarterback play from what we saw yesterday, but you can get through. They have a running game. Antonio Gibson's a nice player. That was a really great catch and run, by the way, yesterday. He was like shot out of a cannon when he went after. I love Terry McLaurin. They need Samuel back. So I guess to answer your question, I think Washington will be okay. This is not a division that anyone's going to run away with. There's still a lot of time. There's 17 games, right? So I think you'll be okay. And again, I think Ron Rivera is the right guy to at least to kind of guide him through here. I mean, it's a half game out. Who knows what's going to happen tonight? They're going to be a game out of first place, so I wouldn't worry too much right now.
Right. Thank you so much, Sal. I needed you to say that to be able to get some of this fan base off the ledge.
I get it, man. Hey, we were getting it week 1 on my show after the Pittsburgh game. Oh my God, Josh is regressing. This team never got better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And look, they have a lot of talent in that front four. I still, even after watching the game back, Josh had to manipulate and move around back there because they were putting a little bit of pressure on. They didn't get him down. He's a different quarterback, but if I'm a Washington fan, I'm mad about yesterday. I'm upset, but I would say just relax a little bit. Let's see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, and we were just talking before we recorded, talking about Brian Dable, and I was telling him how well of a good job he did yesterday. Yeah. There was one play where the rushers went upfield and were kind of slow, so the next play they come out fast, ready to go, and he calls a draw play. And there was literally no defenders in front of him after. And it's just like, my goodness. It's like, that's the perfect play call, dude.
Yeah, he's pretty dialed in right now. He was yesterday at least dialed in on exactly, what to do and what to expect from them. And that's good game planning. That's good game calling. So, but you have good days and you have bad days in this league. And I thought yesterday was a day that, look, Washington caught the Bills at a bad time for them too, because the Bills lost their first game, their home opener. Yeah. They did not want to lose another home game, right? Mm-hmm. And then they knew they had Taylor Heineke coming in. The last 2 weeks, this team knew that they did not play up to expectations. So I think they were like a caged animal ready to come out.
Okay. Thank you. And to wrap this up, Sal, I have to ask you, what do you think is going to happen with this Bills team? I know this isn't Washington football team base. I'm probably going to get crap for this, but I want to ask your opinion. Do you think that they're going to make it?
Well, look, I mean, for the first time ever covering this team, I'm on record as actually picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, believe it or not. I did that at the beginning of the year. I have the Bills over the Rams in LA in their home stadium. Second year in a row, we have a team playing in their home stadium. The stated goal of the Buffalo Bills going in this offseason, going into the season, is to host the AFC Championship game, to get the number 1 seed, to have the road to the Super Bowl go through Buffalo. And right now, everything is there for them. Guys, look around the AFC. What's happening? Kansas City is 1-2. Baltimore could have lost yesterday, go to 1-2 at Detroit. Pittsburgh is not who we thought they were, maybe, or at least what they looked like week 1, right? Maybe Cleveland's right there, but who are the real threats to the Buffalo Bills in the AFC right now? I mean, there are threats, I should say, but you could see this team and this organization getting to that number 1 seed. If they stay healthy all year, the schedule is favorable. So I think the expectations are for this team to contend for a Super Bowl. They're in a window right now where they're set up for it.
Sal, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out and joining us. I know we had to kind of move things around because the co-host had some stuff going on, but I can't. You were very impressive, sir. I'm glad that you were able to take some time out and join us. I wanted to say, I respect the Bills fan base. That's fan base that I don't talk crap to, just like the Browns. I hope you guys, the torture of seeing 4 straight Super Bowls and no victories coming from that is putrid, and you guys deserve the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna say it right now. It's the only time I'll say it.
Well, I'll say this. we love Ryan Fitzpatrick here. We're rooting for him. We really love Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if and when he gets back, we'd love to see that. My colleague on the radio broadcast, Eric Wood, former Bills center, him and Fitz are best friends. I know they were talking
really?
a lot. Oh yeah, they do everything together. And we were chatting before the game. He was in touch with Fitz, just talking about. And unfortunately, Fitz couldn't come to the game, but we love Ryan Fitzpatrick here, and I'd love to see him. And I think and like I said, I think you got good people there. You just have to let Ron Rivera kind of do his thing to bring more people in and good people in. But there were a lot of Washington fans in the stands yesterday in Buffalo, and it's always good to see, the opposing fans when they go home unhappy. But at the same time, I will tell you, I've been in that stadium when things have gone awry with some of the other fan base, and it wasn't the case yesterday.
Yeah, we know that all too well. And make sure you ask Eric if Ryan Fitzpatrick did bang up his hip at that water park. That was like a conspiracy theory being floated.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that. I will.
Sal, right quick before you go, you want to plug your social media handle just in case people want to come and find where you work?
Yeah, sure. At Sal Sports on Twitter, and I'm on WGR 550 in Buffalo. Not that anybody's going to be listening from down there in your neck of the woods, but you never know. But at Sal Sports on Twitter, and I appreciate anybody who comes along.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Sal. Hope you the best. Good luck with you guys the rest of the season. You have a good night, sir.
Yeah, you too. Just beat the Cowboys, okay? Just beat the Cowboys. That's all we care about. All right. We hate the Cowboys here. It's okay. We all hate the Cowboys. It's all good.
At least we got something in common.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, Sal. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
That was absolutely incredible. Sal was a professional, to say the least, my friend. I mean, my goodness.
I mean, look, that Super Bowl he predicted, I would love to see that Super Bowl. It's going to be a lot of offense, a lot of big plays, a lot of explosive plays, and two great defenses as well. So Rams and Bills, that would be a great Super Bowl to watch.
Yes, and now let's move on to our fan questions, everybody. And man, do we have some for you guys. This is going to be fun to wrap up this episode. So the Colonel wants to know, in regards to Ron Rivera saying this game was a measuring stick, he wants to know, so how do we measure up? He wants an emphasis on the overrated defense and their lackluster performance at best, Hall.
Look, I was one of those people that in the beginning of the season, everyone was talking about, look at the quarterbacks they played last year. The defense is overrated, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go far to say that they're overrated. I just think that they got overhyped to the point where they started kind of believing the hype. And I think that, just like everyone's been saying, this was a humbling game for them. I think that hopefully Ron's going to dig up in their and get up under them this week coming to practice, and hopefully they'll come out firing against Atlanta, because again, this is another potentially high-powered offense with a great receiver and quarterback. So I definitely think that this should be just like the Bills, were a kind of get-right game for us on the offensive side of the ball. I think that this should be a get-right game for the defense on the coming up against Atlanta.
To be perfectly honest, Colonel, we don't measure up because this is a Super Bowl aspiration type of team. And when they played Tampa last season, they went on to win the Super Bowl, and everyone kind of thought, okay, we can play with anybody. We can play with anybody. So here come the Bills, and they absolutely whoop our ass. That was a welcome to the NFL moment for the Washington football team. This was the Bills saying, you think you're good, but you're not that good. You have to do more than that. You have to play consistent. And that's why my keys for the game, I said this on Friday, were turnovers. The Bills do not make mistakes. They are a very good football team, and they understand that when you don't make mistakes, you are in a very good position to win the football game. And what did the Washington football team do? They came up and they turned the ball over. They are just a year or two away from where the Bills are, because the Bills are, like Sal just talked about, they are a gelled group that's been together for years with very little turnover. So they know each other. I understand these guys are friends with Chase Young and Montez Sweat and everything, but you're also adding in Benjamin St. Juste into the mix. You're adding in Jamin Davis into the mix. You're moving things around, Bobby McCain. Things aren't really gelling at the moment, and that's what you're kind of saying. So we are obviously not even close to elite like the Bills are. I would say right now they're playing average to below average, but they have the capability of playing great. They just haven't reached it yet.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. And now our next question is from our guy Orange Crush, and he has three great ones, and they're in orders. Okay, so the hard question that he has for you all: what went right in this game for us?
Oh man. Well, you saw the potential explosiveness that Antonio Gibson brings to the table. I've been banging on the table to kind of get him more involved in the pass game. Obviously, you get him involved in the pass game in the screen game. You see what happened, 73-yard touchdown off of one play. definitely swing the momentum kind of back towards us after that, after the first couple drives got out of hand. But positives, I would definitely say Antonio Gibson and how he's going to look going forward if they keep giving him touches. The offensive line, I think, did a hell of a job as far as run blocking. They've already been a great run blocking team throughout the season, but pass blocking protection yesterday was above average to say the least. And I would say that even though they didn't really get home on Josh Allen, we had a big Deron Payne sighting, and even though he did, like I say, he didn't get really any hits on Josh Allen, but he had, I think he led the team in hurries and pressures or something like that. So for him going forward with a combination of Jonathan Allen getting off to the season he had, I think that that's a positive going forward because in order for the guys on the outside to kind of get their sack totals up and get some sacks under them, I feel like the inside guys need to push that pocket, kind of make the QB kind of step up, bounce outside the pocket so he can kind of fall right into Chase or Montez's lap.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. What went right? Obviously, you brought up AG. Logan Thomas, I thought had a very good game except for the fumble. That's just a great play by Tre'Davious White. Because what are you going to tell Logan? Like, how is he supposed to improve that? You're going to tell him to not fight for extra yardage? Because then there's going to be scenarios where he's short of the third down marker and he doesn't go get it because he's concerned about a fumble. That's just a great play by Tre'Davious White, dude. To be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, you can't hate on Logan too much with that. Logan had it was a great throw by Taylor. He stood in the pocket. He had bodies all around him. The guy in his face, he chucks it at Logan at a high point. Logan brings down the ball in between two guys, then is able to escape out of that. It's just, I said it earlier about the first touchdown. That's just how it seemed like the day was going to go. Where like just nothing is going your way and everything is going their way. And that's just kind of how it seemed, like even with the Kendall Fuller interception. It deflects off Cam Curl's shoulder pad, almost in the breadbasket for Kendall, and it's in his hands. He just can't grab it. What went right? And I'll also say Dustin Hopkins, that kickoff was awesome. I think him gaining confidence is crucial for this football team and being able to kick some field goals through, so that was a good thing. And that sliding catch was so cool, man. You know he felt cool doing that. Now, Orange Crush's next question, he says this is a harder question. Who on the Washington football team do you think has the most catching up to do?
Man.
This is very simple for me. You want me to go first?
Yeah, because I got two people, and I'm going to see who you pick first.
It's Cole Holcomb, to be perfectly honest with you. I understand what they're trying to resonate with the linebackers, and they're trying to say, because Josh Allen has that running capability, whenever he did the play action like RPOs stuff, our linebackers were keeping their eye on Josh. They weren't penetrating. They weren't, because they wanted to see what he was going to do if he was going to keep the football, which is very, very smart. But at the same time, that kills you in the blocks because now the linemen have extra time to get upfield and to get into your face while you're trying to see what's going on. That's what I'm kind of seeing with Cole Holcomb. He's not in the positions that he should be, missing tackles. I don't like the way he's playing right now. He's not playing like he did in the preseason. When in the preseason, he was playing lights out. What I saw on film, I thought he was primed for a big year. Week 1 comes around, it's almost like he got punched in the mouth, and it's almost like he's trying to find his grounding, like kicking his feet around. We need the consistency out of Cole because we're not going to get the consistency out of Jamin until he is a ready professional. We're not going to get the consistency out of Bostic just because of the physical limitations. We need some consistency in that linebacking core, and that has to be Cole Holcomb. He has a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I definitely agree with that. I mean, the linebackers as a whole overall need some catching up to do. But I'm going to go with a guy in the secondary. I was going to go with Fuller, but I feel like there's more of a glaring person on that defense on the back end, and that's Landon Collins. I feel like going into the season, everyone said he said he's in the best shape of his life. He was looking explosive in training camp. Even in the preseason, he was flying around the ball, making plays here and there.
His snap percentage has gone down in every single game.
That's what I was going to get to. It was like from game 1 to game 3 right now, even going into next week, I feel like you said, his snap increase is getting lower and lower and lower over guys like Bobby McCain. So, and every time you see Landon on the field, it's kind of like his back is turned, chasing after somebody behind him. And that's what was happening last year. And you thought that, all right, maybe in the offseason he worked on it, got better, got a little bit, I wouldn't say faster because he's coming off the Achilles, but maybe a little bit more intelligent as far as like maybe my athletic ability is not what it was. So let me get a little bit smarter on the back end. And he has not lived up to expectations so far, in my opinion.
Look, I don't know anything, okay? I don't get paid for my football takes. I'm not saying they should do any of this or anything. I'm just saying I watched the game. There was one play in particular. Landon Collins comes up to the line of scrimmage. They run a play with Devin Singletary, and he brings a guy down for a -2 loss. That is where Landon should be, close to the line of scrimmage as a blitzer, run defender. Look, I know I don't know anything. They know much more about defense than I could forget. I understand that, or they would forget. I don't know what this saying. I butchered it. But the fact being is, that's where he excels at, and that's where he should be. Cam Curl his snap count is slowly rising as Landon's is diminishing, which is obviously better for the team because Curl is playing very, very good at this point. He's probably one of the more consistent guys on defense that you could say. So keep him there. That's my whole thing. Keep him there. Now,
No,
the
100%.
next question from Orange Crush. He says, this is the hardest question, Hall.
Oh, man.
After seeing the first 3 games this season, what's our record going to be at the end of the season?
Ooh, that is a hard one. It's funny because someone just put on Twitter the next, what are we, 3
Do you want me to
games
read
in?
the games out to you? I have them on my
Yeah,
home screen.
I remember off the top of my head. It was the next 9 games because the last 5 are division games.
Yes. So our next
And-
game is Atlanta, and then the
it's like
Saints,
Saints and Packers or something, or Chiefs, one of those two.
Chiefs, Packers, Broncos, Bucks, Panthers, Seahawks, Raiders, Cowboys, Eagles, New York to finish it up.
Yeah. What are we, 1 and 2 right now?
Mm-hmm.
That 9-game stretch before the division, I got them going.
I got them
Winning
going.
one.
I have them going 5-4 over that 9-game
That's
stretch.
funny. I was just gonna say I got the same thing, 5-4 over that 9-game stretch. So that'll put us at 6-6. 5 games to finish out. I got us. Actually, it's funny. I said we were gonna be a 10-7 team to begin the season, so I actually do got them at 10-7. I know it looks bleak right now because of what they've showed so far, but I just feel like, just like with Buffalo, like I said before, with Buffalo kind of like looking at us like, oh, this is our get right game. If they can come out and just punch Atlanta in the face, kind of build their confidence going forward. I know it's a murderous row with quarterbacks coming up, but what's one way to disrupt the quarterback? Pressure. And if this team can start generating pressure, I think that the tides will change, and we can hopefully get to 10 wins.
Yeah, you and I were talking before we started recording, and whenever I watch film, what I do is I always pause it after the snap, and I always pause it per second so I can watch in slow time what is happening per rep. And every single time that the offense was snapped, there were a couple plays where Josh Allen would have the ball in his hands, and our defensive end rushers had 1 foot off the ground, just getting off the ball. It seemed like our anticipation off the snap was very, very slow. If that can be corrected, if they can bring the pressure, I think this is a team that is very capable of getting to 10-7, to 9-8, and controlling this division. Because that is all that matters, is controlling the division. The Cowboys are falling apart. The Giants are the Giants. You know, they just lost to the Falcons yesterday. And then the Eagles, they're about to play the Cowboys tonight. They're not looking like barn burners by any stretch. So look, you never know what can happen. But I agree with you. I'll go 9-8, and that they win the division. But they have to learn from this. The worst thing they can possibly do is sit here and say, this is how the rest of the season is going to go. This is how we're going to play everybody, because Lord knows the defense is going to kick up right as the offense falls off. That's generally what happens, how this works. The offense is doing well, defense falls off. Just like a somersault kind of thing. So seesaw. So they need to just balance it out. Just play together. Play together.
I will say, and we were talking about this before too as well, before we started recording, if they come out against Atlanta and just lay another dud and they end up getting blown out, or even don't really play up to the potential of a team that they should beat and can beat, I will say I will fastly, and it's still a long season, there's still 13 games after that, but I will fastly change my prediction to this will be a 5 or maybe 6 game win team.
I would agree. I would agree with that sentiment. Now, let's move on to our next question from our guy, Aki G. What's up, brother? He wants to know, with the defense's inability to get third down stops, what do you guys think needs to be changed?
Got to start bringing a little bit more pressure on third downs. I know that, especially on the third and longs, this has really been killing me. Third and shorts, third and manageables, you give those up every now and then. It is what it is. NFL, everyone's good in the NFL. When you're giving up 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 14s, 3rd and 15s, 3rd and 15 pluses, that tells me that I know you want to rush with the only 4, drop 7 guys in coverage, but clearly that's not working so far. You got to start bringing some pressure off the edge, maybe some pressure up the middle. You mentioned Landon Collins playing down in the box. Bring him on blitzes. That's what he does best, like you said. So for me, it's definitely just bringing a little bit more pressure on third down and getting a little bit more consistent on the pass rush on third downs as well from the defensive line.
They have to do better on a play-by-play basis. So basically what's happening on third down is they get 3 to 4 yards on first down. Second down, they get 3 to 4 yards. And every third down is a 3rd and 2. So you can't just sit back and say, yeah, go get the pass rusher, because you still have to respect the run game at that point because it's 3rd and 2. They have to do better on the early downs because they don't have anything to hang their hat on at this point. They can't say, yeah, every time you run the ball, we're going to stop it. We're going to force you to pass it. They don't even have that. They're still giving up big runs. They have to solidify the line of scrimmage first, and then things will start falling into place when you start forcing consistently 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, like our offense continuously is in. And that's what you have to be able to do as a defense, because they're giving up the short yardage way too much. It's because they are sitting in that zone. They're saying, yeah, we'll give you the short stuff. We're not going to give up anything deep, kind of thing. Let's go man up, man. Let's go straight up. Let's go see what's going on, and let's force them to make plays. That's how I feel at this point, because it almost seems like they know what's coming. And look, if they know what's coming, let's go with man then. Let's say man on man, hat on hat. Let's see who's better. And that's how I personally feel about it.
Yeah, 100%. Look, William Jackson was touted as one of the best man covers guys in the league. And it just seems like to me, when he's getting beat, it's because he's playing some type of zone. So maybe you should play to his strengths, especially on third downs. And like you said, get in the guys' faces, jam them at the line, like disrupt their routes a little bit. Make the defensive line, like give them an extra like half a second to get to the quarterback instead of just free release, play the zone. Just getting picked apart. So
yeah, and one thing I'll say also, you could do, Aki G, bring Landon Collins on third down, make him the kind of running back, maybe quarterback spy kind of thing. Have him used as a blitzer, as a specialty blitzer for that situation. At this point, it's a liability in the early downs. We've kind of seen that. He's best close to line of scrimmage, like I said before. That's another way you can do it. Now, Andy from the UK has a question for us. Oi! He wants to know, what do you guys put this poor start to the season?
Like, who do you put the blame on?
Yeah. Well, what is to blame? Why are they starting out so slow? What's going on?
Obviously, it's the defensive line. This is supposed to be, and the defense as a whole, I would say, but that's supposed to be the main staple of the team. That's supposed to be what the team is built around. We have a lot of great playmakers on defense, a lot of athletic guys on defense. So, and at the end of the day, like I said, you're giving up third downs at a ridiculous rate right now. I think, what did John count?
It's like 70%.
70% exactly. If you're giving up that many third downs and that much high percentage, well, obviously your offense is not on the field enough to get points to kind of keep the other offense off the field as well. So, and we're not even converting third downs on offense either. So the opposing team's offense is on the field a lot more than our offense. Defense is getting tired because they're on the field so much. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. It goes hand in hand. I would put a little bit more blame on the defense because that's supposed to be the staple of the team, but the offense is not really living up to what they should be doing as well, especially when it comes to third downs.
What do I attribute it to? One, I think that they were not creative with the defense going into the season. Everything is way too predictable defensively. I mean, literally, for 3 straight games, their offense have known exactly what to call and when to call it. We have not had really a play where we're like, yeah, well, we are inflicting our will. It's like they're doing it to us. They know what's happening. But now on offense, it kind of sucks because you don't want to give the excuse of Ryan Fitzpatrick going out. So it kind of slowed everything up. But the offense hasn't really been the issue. They've done a pretty good job of being able to get the ball downfield and score some points. Granted, the Antonio Gibson fumble kind of took them out of that Chargers game. But look, I thought the offense was doing all right. And I think it's been a perfect storm, accumulation of not playing organized, sound football with their team knowing exactly what we want to do defensively, being able to pick that apart, and then we not playing together, kind of pointing fingers almost in a month. Not really. I'm not going to say pointing fingers. Nobody really is pointing fingers. Because I think that whole comment about Chase Young with the whole bullshitting thing, I better not see anybody bullshitting, blah, blah, blah. We were talking about this before. I think he was trying to have that Tim Tebow kind of podium moment where he's saying, we're going to go to work, we're going to fix this, we're not going to, and if we're going to work our butt off, and if anyone's not working their butt off, let me know and I'll go talk to him. That's what I thought he was saying. I don't think there was more drama going on with this whole situation.
Yeah,
Now, last question for us. I know, guys, we have a bunch more. I'm going to save them for Friday. I'm so sorry. But last question is from Tony Shivers. He wants to know, do you classify the Atlanta game as a must-win?
I do, because we were talking about this before we started, but this should be a get right game for us. You just saw that the offense is a work in progress down in Atlanta. They don't really have a legit running back outside of, I know Mike Davis is the starter, but they don't really have a legit running game outside of Calvin Ridley, who is a top tier receiver in my opinion. They don't really have that number one dog, that number two dog wide receiver. I know they got Kyle Pitts down there, but for some reason they haven't really utilized him up to this point.
Russell Gage is injured as well.
Yeah, Russell Gage is injured as well. So this should definitely be a get right game for the defense, as well as the offense. I know their defense, they have one of the worst secondaries in the league, if not the worst. So that definitely should be a get right game for the whole team.
Your mic went out. Sorry. No, Tony, yes, this is definitely, not yet. This is definitely a must-win for Washington. There's a lot that is going into this game because they are the 31st ranked offensive line against the pass. Now everyone's going to say, hey, yeah, but the Giants were bad against the pass. So were the Bills supposedly. But I feel like Atlanta is not the same team as the Bills. I don't think they're the same team as the Giants. I know they just beat the Giants yesterday, but the Giants just have those games sometimes. This is the game, because if this is the one where you have to go, and we talked about this before, where you have to get 6 to 8 sacks, really solidify and start to build that momentum. We need to have that stifling win to bring that confidence, because this type of loss is one of those losses that can demoralize an entire season. But if you allow that to build off of it, to say, we know how not to play anymore, that can really pay dividends down the road, and especially in the playoffs going against these really, really good teams. So, yes, is it a must-win? Without a freaking doubt, because going into the Saints with 1-3, I don't think is a great scenario for this team, especially with the Kansas City Chiefs right after that. So, that's just me.
Yeah, that was going to be my point, where you don't want to be 1-3 to start off the first quarter of the season.
Right.
And also, with the murderous row of quarterbacks we got coming up with Jameis Winston is 50-50. Is it going to be good Jameis, bad Jameis? But it looks like so far, no matter what quarterback it is, it's a good quarterback against us. Like Pat Mahomes, you got Derek Carr coming down the line, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson at some point. So you definitely want to get to 2-2, back to 500.
Yep.
Especially kind of keep pace in the division, which looks to be not a repeat of last year, but pretty damn close to last year. So if you want to keep pace with, I'll probably say Dallas, because they're probably going to win tonight. Got to keep pace with Dallas going forward. Got to keep pace just in general, because like I said, the murderous row of quarterbacks coming up. I mean, you gotta play up to the standard, really. You just gotta play to the standard. Like Mike Tomlin says, you gotta play to the standard.
Yep, you gotta play better football than you did yesterday. That was Puget that got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
But I believe in this team. I think they'll turn it around. We were saying the same things last season. People were saying they didn't think we could beat the Cowboys even without Dak Prescott. That's how bad we were looking after the Browns, Cardinals, Ravens game. That was the bad stretch. Everyone was flipping out. Same type of thing here. Believe in this team, man. I do. I think that they could pull it together. They had so much crap going on off the field last season that they could have quit at any point in time. I don't think one bad loss is going to provide this team with the ability to say, all right, I'm done. That's too much. Yeah. I'm out of it. This is a growing team. They're going to get better. Iron sharpens iron, and this is the kind of loss that can pay dividends and produce wins down the road, because you know how not to play.
And not only that, if you got the guys in the locker room and guys on the team that are kind of looking at this like, oh, the season's over, man, we got whooped, we're not as good as we think we are. But that's another problem in itself. You don't have the right guys in the building. You don't have the right guys in the locker room. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't even be in the NFL if you're thinking like, oh, we were going to just be bad. Hell, woe is me. Like, no. If you're a competitor, you get up and rise to the occasion. Come out next week. On to Atlanta, Bill Belichick style.
Right. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. I'm sorry, Tony Franchise. I'm saving this for Friday. It's a good question. Justin, I'm saving yours for Friday as well. Scott Hartley, I love you, brother. I'm saving yours as well. They're really, really good, and they can be used on Friday's show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you to Colonel. Thank you to Orange Crush. Thank you, Aki G. Thank you, Andy, Tony Shivers. Great to speak with Renee and Sal. Yeah. That was awesome. Great time. And then we'll see you guys on Friday, hopefully with Reed this time. We haven't had a full crew in a week, it seems. So I'll see you guys on Friday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
I'll see you guys then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched the BurgundyZone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!